Hi, this is Wendy. Um, this is painting 6 in my dream series. This is daily painting. I'm working on a series of paintings that came from a dream I had when my husband first got his cancer diagnosis. And the dream was just an amalgam of all the evening walks that we used to take, and just little bits here and there of us. And it really showed me where our roots were, and um, you know, I knew it was there, and I knew how much I loved him, but it just, I don't know, it gave me strength, and it gave me something to hold on to. And the images were so strong that I had been thinking about painting them since then. That was a little over 3 years ago, and I lost him this past Easter, followed by my mom 2 months later. So I've been trying to figure out how to navigate these waters that seem just seem it seems unreachable. Just the you know state of the whole thing. I just feel uh, overwhelmed, and I'm just trying to figure it out. And like I said, this is painting 6, and I was sort of on a pretty good track. I've been giving myself goals to try to make sure that I'm not staying stagnant, and then I'm moving forward, because it's sometimes harder than other times to sort of keep it together and get things done. And when, with me at least, things like this happen, or when this happened, it totally just made me reevaluate everything and see the importance and priorities in life. And one of those is working on paintings in my head. And I have so many just floating through there, I can't even begin. And I have, just so many. And so my husband used to always say, start with the low-hanging fruit. And this was in the forefront of my mind, this dream. And so I started painting these pictures. And this one is called Caught in the Rain. And we're just walking, and it's raining. And I want to hold on to these memories. I know it's not going to bring him back, but it's holding on to these things and bringing to life these moments that are in my head. They're not in photographs, and they're not, so I just think it's important for me to do them. Before my husband passed, in the months before, I think he knew that it was, that he was getting weaker, that he was, we were just biding time. And he asked me to paint him. And I intend to do that tenfold to maybe what he intended. I don't know. Maybe he knew that I would just take that and run. And while I was sitting vigil with him, I did the first painting. It wasn't the first painting I've ever done. I did a few others, but really not that many for how long we were together. My time has been dominated by, over the years, painting wise, doing commissions. So, I'm not picking it, other people are. Or doing things to make money to use, as income. And so different things, like I painted things, for ballet studios and things like that. Like I did commemorative pieces, Christmas bulbs for the Nutcracker, and just various things on that level. And I've always done Christmas bulbs have been a big thing. I've always sort of done at Christmas time, and so that's always a big one. And then just in paintings, it just depends on what the people want. And so it really has been dominated by that. And then really for the past up until a little over a year ago, I was also teaching, and I taught for about 10 years at a studio where people come in, and it's almost like entertainment art. But people, really came in, and some people really learned, and they came multiple times, and I watched them grow over the years. And then some people would just come in, for a one-off, having fun with their friends and whatever, and both were good, in fact, before I started working there, I kind of was like, what are people going to get out of this? But I did enjoy that job, and there was all kinds of things that I got from just, working there. And so I do think that it was a good learning experience for me. Just the sheer fact that you're forced to paint all the time because you're working there and you're painting things and you're picking apart the paintings and you're just working on it. So it's like going to the gym all the time, right? You're going to get stronger, you're going to get better, you're going to get just improve yourself. And that's what working there really was. It forced me to paint things that I wouldn't typically paint, so it takes you outside of your box. And it also made me, because a lot of times when I painted, people go, well, how did you do that? I don't know, I just did it. I didn't think about it, I just did it. And this sort of helped me, and it made me a better artist. It made me refine certain aspects of that. But at the same time, the studio closed, like I said, a little over a year ago, and it really worked out well in ways, especially because I was able to really stay home and spend that time with my husband. And but I also feel like it was kind of like time to move on and maybe take on something else. And I don't completely know what that is, but taking the extra skills and stuff that I learned from just being there and just forcing myself to do that stuff all the time, and myself stuff that I was doing during that time, just the growth. And I want to push that to do work on my own personal pieces now. And because you can get caught up when you're sitting there and it becomes a little too structured. So now I'm sort of working on sort of freeing that up again and just sort of painting and not try to overthink things, and like I said, get these images out there. And so I've started with this series. It's going to be extended to other things, but I have at least this painting and at least one more from this first sort of dream series. So this is painting 6. And my goal is to paint every day. And I haven't posted every day. I've done better on some days than others. Kind of threw me off track was I had a couple commissions I had to do of portraits of pets. And I put it on there the other day, but I ended up actually redoing that whole dog painting, and I didn't even record it. I just felt so distracted by it. I wanted to get it done. I wanted to be good, but I don't know. I was having trouble with it, and it seems so funny because I can't tell you how many dogs that I painted over the years. It's just sometimes you get things that you do all the time. Sometimes can almost seem like impossible. I can't even, it's hard to even explain. Something that you would find so simple to do. Other times, sometimes it just seems like out of reach. And you're just getting in your head and fucking with yourself and your own abilities and overthinking things. And so I had this dog, and I actually walked by my mirror with the picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. And I know I was seeing it backwards, because when you look in the reflection, that just makes it all look warped and whatever. But that didn't matter. That was the final straw. I went, ah. So I just painted the whole thing over, and just got rid of the original and started again. And it took me a fraction of the time it did for the paint the first ugly dog to paint one that I was satisfied with. It just took a fraction of the time, and it really was what the change was just my mindset. I knew that I had the ability to do it. I just needed to do it and get it out of the way and push forward. It brings money in, but it's not just that. And that's the thing. That's how I get in your head, is the fact that, like, to me, not only when I do these things, I have to sit there once I'm done and I hand it to someone, I'm saying, this is it. This is what you get from me. Okay. And that can come into play with different things, because, like, by the amount of details I put in paintings, particularly if I'm doing murals and stuff like that, it can really affect the cost of something, like how much detail, what kind of, and that can make a difference. But really, on a pet portrait, it's about the same. And I want people to be happy. I want them to look at it and think, oh my gosh, that's my cat, that's my dog, that's my horse, that's my bearded dragon. And I know you're like, okay, bearded dragon, but actually I have done bearded dragons before. People love their pets, man, and I love them too. I am a huge animal fan. And this one, I think, is the first painting I've had where the kittens that I have around the studio aren't running around, because they were all sleeping over to the side. But usually in these videos, you'll see the kittens running around. And right now, when I'm doing this audio, they're running around. So if you hear things crash, that's them being crazy, running around, being nutty. And it was kind of peaceful painting without them sitting there going after me and my paintbrush and stuff like that. But at the same time, I kind of miss them. They keep me on my toes, and they keep me from overthinking sometimes. I concentrate on other things that just sort of distract me from my own thoughts. And I've been happy to get these paintings done, and making myself doing this and moving forward, I think, has been really helpful towards, I don't know, long-term goal. It makes me happy to have the pictures. So that I can say conclusively that every painting that I've done of the 5, I am happy to have it. And even the process of painting it, because I'm thinking about things. I'm thinking about us, and I'm thinking about that. And I know they're not going to bring him back, but they're going to sort of hold on to that part of him. And I'm trying everything I can to sort of get through this grief, and it's not always easy. And when I'm talking to people, and even when I'm talking here, you always feel like you're sort of putting a veil over it when you're talking to people, and particularly when you're going out in public, because you can't go around screaming like a maniac, or I mean, you can, I guess, but or crying at the drop of a hat, which I can't. I have to say that it's still, that happens in inconvenient times sometimes. I don't mean to. It's just that, first of all, I'm a big weeper. Just before all this stuff happened, a good Publix commercial, Thanksgiving commercial could make me cry. But Now it's like I don't know what's going to trigger it. It could be so many different things. It could be the color of the sky, and it just makes me think about something or whatever, and I just feel overwhelmed, or I feel sometimes, most of the time, I just feel tremendous love for my husband, love for my mother, um, and how lucky I was to have both of them. And it really, it's hard for me to say how I can only do what I can. Um, it's not something that you wish on anybody, but almost everybody's going to have to deal with someone they love passing, unless you walk around, keeping yourself emotionally safe and away from that. But that's sad in itself, and I don't want that. I want to enjoy life. And even though my husband and my mom have passed, I all the more it makes me realize how precious life is. And yeah, do I wish that he was here, that I had time with them? Yes. That's not even truly a question. That just is. But he's not, and I have to move forward anyway. And so I want to appreciate everything as if he's beside me and we are sharing it. And I just want to, appreciate every moment with my grandbabies, and the sunrise in the morning, and the moon at night, and rain. You name it, I want to experience it, and I want to enjoy it and appreciate it, and I do. But I have a lot of things that I'm overwhelmed, that I still have to deal with, and it's a process. And so that's why I'm doing this. It's like I said, my own personal art therapy, and I'm just trying to move forward and be productive at the same time. And so I force myself. I always say I only have to paint for 5 minutes, but I have to paint every day. And I painted longer for 5 minutes a day. I did 48 minutes or 43 minutes. 43 minutes, sorry. My glasses. And so that's, far longer than 5, but it gives me this thing, and I go, this goal, and if I accomplish it and I do it. And I have a few other things I'm doing like that, and some of them I'm holding on better than others. And even the ones that I do fairly regularly and on schedule, even those I have my moments where I push them aside. Like Tai Chi. I try to do Tai Chi, and I do it almost every day. But it's not like when I was struggling with the dog thing. It's like it affects everything, and it's like I don't know. I mean, sometimes you wish you could just go around screaming like a maniac, but mostly I know better, and I don't want that to be me. But this gives me a place that I can sit here and just talk. And it doesn't matter if anybody's listening or anything. Quite frankly, I mean, sometimes it's easier just to think that nobody's listening. But I know other people go through this too. And sometimes it feels good to know that we're not alone. That, I don't know, gives you hope that you can make it through. Knowing that other people have made it through or are working on the same thing as you are, and just want to do better. And I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine where I'm going in all this. It's something that I'm making up as I go along. Like all of us are. Try to figure it out. Although to me it does seem like some people got a manual to figure out how to navigate this stuff. I know that we didn't. And navigating life in itself can be its own challenge. I've always felt like I forgot, or I never received the memo and everybody else did. I remember in high school coming in to biology class, and everybody had these science fair projects that they brought in, and they were like, oh yes, this is due today. And I just had no recollection, as if they were all on another planet and I arrived and just had no clue. And that was just like one of so many incidents of me walking through life, and definitely through school. I often just had no clue. And I had the ability to do good. I just usually was very distracted, and always pretty much wanted to be somewhere else. A good sunny day, and it was hard to keep me inside that school. Especially once I had a car. Oh my gosh. That was just like an invitation to go, okay, well, there's got to be something better to do than sitting in a classroom and just, yawning. And it made me always wish that there were sort of better solutions for learning. And I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to say I know what all those answers are. But I do feel like if learning could be more hands-on, more doing and less lecturing, it would have been helpful for me. Because it's not that I don't enjoy learning. I love that. And half the time when I skipped school, I would do things like go to museums. I grew up in Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C. And one of my favorite things was to go to the Smithsonian, or to go to the library, or, go to a bookstore, or go, I can't tell you how much time I spent in those museums. And so it had nothing, and I was going and looking at things and learning about stuff, and and just not in the classroom. So I don't know. It's the education system, I think, has many, many flaws, and it's unfortunate. And I wish I had, a magic wand that I could wave over it and make it work for everybody, because I know some people, that's the way to go. you know. Um, to me, I was much less gonna retain it if I, was forced to do certain things. But if I actually functioned and, did things, and it was much more action, and I was, a part of it, I was much more likely to keep it in my head. Um, but I know a lot of people, they read it once and it's like it's stuck forever. And I always felt like when I was reading that, I was always thinking about something else, and I'd have to go back and reread it, and just everything was a chore. I just, being in school, I always found it to be a struggle pretty much from kindergarten and before preschool too. I usually was just, my favorite part of the day was going home, for sure. And then usually I would fuck that up because homework, forget that. I was horrible at getting my homework done. It was just not. I mean, even in first grade, I remember having to copy a note from the wall saying that I didn't do my homework, and I was supposed to get my mom to sign it, and she was working nights at the time, and I'm a little kid, and I signed her name for her, and which was big printed out, just my mom's first name. And my sister says I drew flowers around it. I do not remember doing that. I do remember going up and saying something to my mom, and then while she was sort of sleeping, and then I ended up signing it. Like I didn't end up telling her, but I remember trying to tell her, and then I just decided no, I was going to sign it myself. Of course, my teacher knew that I signed it. Okay, my mother isn't going to sit there with, sign it the way I signed it. Although later on down the line, give me a few years, I did learn how to sign my parents' signature, so that didn't stop as time went on. To get out of things, which is just unfortunate. I wish that I don't know. It is who I am, and so it's made me who I am, and I guess I just have to embrace that. But I know the struggle I went through, and I wish I could just go back and tell myself to not be so stressed and to appreciate things and to, I don't know. Hindsight's always 20/20. You look at it and you wish you could have done things differently, or at least not stressed about them the same way, or appreciated other things, not just in hindsight, And I will say this, that has changed over the years, Not that I don't stress over things or whatever, but definitely for sure my appreciation of things has increased as the years have gone on. And that's just what life does for you. You just start to really realize, as you go through it, the beautiful things that you have. And I feel, pretty lucky with that. Got great daughters and beautiful grandbabies and friends that I'm really close to. And that's, a lucky thing. I know there's people out there that don't have that kind of support, don't have their friends and their family, and I don't know where I'd be without all that support. I truly don't. And still with all that, it's not necessarily easy. And then, like I said, I'm just trying to get everything done. There's all this paperwork I'm avoiding that I need to do. And I will get it done. It's just not as easy. I think it would be. I just need to do it. But I don't know. Other things seem like more of a priority. And then just behind on everything. For 3 years I was at my husband's side while he was going through this, and pretty quick after he got the diagnosis and going through treatment, we were dealing with ups and downs that, in and out of hospital, treatments, and his just ability to be able to, he had to immediately quit work because of the extent of his cancer. And he wasn't supposed to drive because of the spot in his brain, and just the multitude of things that just changed. And it just took over, and I'm very grateful for all of that time. I can't even, you go through that with someone, it's life-changing. And both Vince and I, when it took our love to an even deeper level. Sharing that, going through that, being there for each other. It is something that, comes from those moments. And Vince and I were always pretty close. We had our struggles, stuff like that, but ultimately our goal was always to hang out and be with each other. So now I hope if he's looking down and he's watching me, that he knows that I'm moving on, and that I appreciate all of us, and that I just want him to smile when he looks at the family and all of us, and him to be happy and proud of who we are and how we're moving forward. And some days it just feels like that's just insurmountable. Just trying to figure out and make that all work. But that's why I make these sort of goals, like making myself do these paintings, because I want to bring beautiful things out of it. I want there to be, positive things that come from it. I remember when my husband was sick, a friend of mine was starting a gallery, and we'd, her and I talked about it back and forth for a while when I was still working studio, and actually when she opened it, I really just could not get involved at the time because dealing with my husband. But anyway, I was looking at artwork, and there was different people in there, and there was one person whose husband had passed away, but because they had killed themselves. And the art was dark and just sad and miserable and stuff like that. And I hope it helped her get through all that, because I can't imagine, when someone chooses to take their own life, chooses to leave their family and their life, that's just got to be extremely hard. But it definitely makes me it could very easily, grief could take you on a deep dive of extreme anger and sadness and questioning of everything. And I just want to keep redirecting that to the positive. And that's, what I'm working from. I want to find, whether it's what it ignites, what it brings out in me. But if you have a goal or you want something to happen, sometimes you just got to take the steps to move forward, not worry about that they're perfect steps or that, because you'll learn along the way. And that's why I'm doing this stuff. I know these videos a lot of times, particularly, I haven't been doing it that long. I just started, this, whatever. I tried a few years back in 2020 doing this stuff, and so then I came back in and just started doing stuff around the time we did my husband's celebration of life, and I've just sort of increased that. And so I just throwing caution to the wind, and I'm just doing it. I just, I don't have the right equipment, I don't have the right camera, I don't have this, I don't have that, but that shit doesn't matter, man. You gotta let that go. And you gotta try to move forward, and if you want to do something, then your only solution is to make it happen, is to, go forward and do it. And if you're like, well, I don't know how to do that, well, you'll learn as you go along, right? You're not going to learn if you're just constantly just thinking, oh, I would like to do this. Well, maybe one day I'll do this. Well, good for you. But one day is not action. And action means more than anything. So take action. Don't sit around and wait for life to hand you things, because it's not going to come. You have to sit there and go out there and get it. I'm not saying things can come to people, but usually because they're out there seeking it and moving forward. So if you want something or you want to accomplish something, I hope you find the strength to do it. Take that baby step. Little steps. Because in my head, I have hundreds and hundreds of paintings of just my husband, and that doesn't include all the other paintings that I have swimming through my mind's eye. And so here I am, painting number 6 of hundreds of paintings in my head. And at least I'm moving forward. I'm bringing them out there. I'm accomplishing something that I want to accomplish. And I don't know where that road is going to lead or what, I'm going to see. Each painting I do is a step closer to getting all those paintings done. And so now I'm working on painting 6. And I forced myself to do this because I actually did already paint today. And all the days, even the days I haven't put out there, I have been painting. I told you I've been working on those animal portraits. And I did that dog one today. I painted over the painting last night, and I sketched out the basic, shape of the dog last night, and then today I laid in all the rest of the layers, and so when I was finished with that, I was like, well, I can sit there and say, okay, Wendy, you painted this, even though I didn't post anything. And, I can say I painted it. But to me, it's more than that. And by posting the stuff, it makes me accountable. It makes me more likely to do it because I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I have this goal. And even, I guess, talking like this is sort of like venting, and it gets it out. Because if you keep things bottled up, it's just going to build. So each of these steps, getting the painting done, doing the talking, all that stuff I think is important. And I do take these paintings, if you look at them, I do them where I'll take everything together. I'll do sort of a sped up version that's, just maybe like 10-15 minutes of, depending on how long the painting was, right? And then I'll do a short, like a minute and a half. I do the slightly longer one because I think you could see more detail of the actual painting, and some people might want to see that a little bit more. And then I do the super fast one because sometimes people don't want to watch 10-minute videos. And but I like watching people paint, so I know that it's not beyond the realm of what people like to do. But I know that these are long and they're slow, and maybe you don't want to listen to me rambling on. You want to watch me paint, but you don't want to listen to me ramble. There is this thing called mute, so you could always just do that, put on your own tunes, and just watch the painting process. But we'll see. I am happy that I made myself do this, because I very easily could have said, talked myself into, well, Wendy, you've already painted today. But it was important for me to get back on track doing these paintings, because somehow, I don't know, I feel them healing me in their own way. But here I am. I'm almost at the end of this part 1. And if you listen, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope that you have if you're going through something, I hope that you find the strength to find something that helps you get through it. I know, I watch a lot of YouTube. And I watched a lot of YouTube before but hopefully it, anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Take care. And, I'll do it again tomorrow. Okay. Have a good one. And try not to let the bastards bring you down. Just get out there and enjoy things best you can.